I still think that is probably one of the most toxic things because we weren't designed to eat sugar at like the rates that we're eating it at. Like, no, and I tell this to my clients all the time. When you look at like processed food in the standard American diet, it's, high sugar and high fat at the same time. And I said, nowhere in nature do you see any food that is high sugar and high fat
Hi
together.
everyone, my name's Caitlin. I'm from grassfedgirl.com, and today we're so excited. We have Christine Hranek. She's a food scientist and chemical engineer, and she specializes in working with women and fat loss. So she's got some great insights to share about keto, and it's going to be so awesome. So stay with us all the way to the end and leave any questions down below. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you so much for having me, Caitlin. It's a pleasure to be here.
She has a huge YouTube channel, so make sure and follow her YouTube channel if you're interested in weight loss and women's hormones and things like that. So, Christine, tell us your story, how you got started in helping women to lose weight.
I'd be glad to. I'm actually a food scientist and chemical engineer, and I actually started getting into this journey many years ago when I was a co-founder of a dietary supplement manufacturing business. So I used to work in the engineering field and manufacturing and process engineering, and I also moved into the biotech field eventually. But it wasn't until I got into the dietary supplement space that I had a curiosity for getting really fit. I remember people like Janet Jackson having like those abs back in the early 2000s. And I wanted that fit look, not like thin, but that strong look. And as a former marathon runner, I would run 40, 50, 60, 70 miles a week. And no matter what I did, I couldn't have that tight aesthetic. So I would get so frustrated, but I was like, Christine, you can figure this out. You have to be doing something wrong. And once I acknowledged that my nutrition was wrong, I was eating too much carbs, I wasn't weight training enough, I didn't have enough protein in my diet. And once that all started to unlock and I started to see some progress, I got really excited, challenged myself to a fitness competition. And within a few years from there, Gauge Girl Training was born because so many people were asking me for advice because I was sharing my whole journey online. And that's how it all began.
Yeah, I remember when you were doing all those fitness competitions. I've been
Mhm.
following you, I think, I don't know, for 10 years or something. I know you were friends with Tony, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Still friends with Tony. Yep.
Okay. You live up there in New Jersey?
He actually recently moved to Maryland, but I'm in the Philadelphia area.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, yeah, Tony was a guy that makes some amazing olive oil from Greece. And so anyway, we all like knew each other. But uh so anyway, that's so interesting because, I think that is a great start when you figure it out for yourself, you can't help but help other people.
Absolutely.
And then she had some amazing pictures. I'll try to find one and put it in here. So, uh,
Absolutely.
and so what are your plans like when when somebody comes to you first? I know you've worked with thousands of women, and what do you kind of help them dial in at the beginning?
It really depends on where you're coming from. I mean, people in back in the day when I was doing fitness competitions, I've had women who wanted to go from like a two-pack to a six-pack. Around 2015, 2016, once my client base expanded more towards women in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, wanting to basically just not hate the way they look naked. And I feel like I was really able to serve that audience with the science of how they need to be nurturing themselves, combined with self-love, self-care, and just having a lot of grace towards yourself throughout this process. Because with all the science in the world, you still need to have that healing on the inside and, be treating yourself in a really positive way. And I think so many women have so many negative connotations with eating and how that impacts their image and their body image, and we have to marry both together at the same time. Doesn't matter how great a plan is, you still need to be taking care of yourself mentally.
That's so true. I mean, we've all lost weight in unhealthy ways, and
Oh,
then
for
it doesn't last. And then there can even be lifelong impacts of what we did to ourselves.
absolutely. And I think that the type of client that I can serve is somebody who's been to the circus. They've tried it all, and right now they're just at the point they want to feel better. They want to do it the right way, and they really want to heal from the inside out.
That's so good because I think that's what's missing in so many people's training programs I see. They're just like the quick fix and um, just cut calories or just do macros and they're not looking at the whole picture. So I
Mhm.
know you've tried keto. Tell us about your experience with that.
It's interesting because when I first tried keto, I was only planning to be on it for experimental purposes because I was putting keto nutrition plans for my clients. This was around 2016, 2017, and I was only planning to be on it for a few weeks. But to my surprise, I loved it. I ended up staying on it for I'd say about 10 months because the thing that just amazed me about it was number one, there was a simplicity about it. It was some people do well with that kind of black and white type guidelines. And it worked really well for me at that time, just avoiding the carbs. But what I was so shocked with, Caitlin, was I just wasn't hungry. I didn't have those sugar and I didn't even really thought I was the type of person that had sugar cravings. But when that food noise is just turned off and you could hear yourself think, and I had all these nice fats in my coffee, like my mental clarity, it was through the roof. I wish I knew about keto when I was in college because like anytime you really need to mentally focus, I found that my productivity was higher, my focus was higher, and I just wasn't hungry. And that piece right there, like it was just a no-brainer. Now, I did miss carbs more just from like an emotional perspective. I just missed them because I'm half Filipino. I grew up eating rice with everything. So I did miss them, but I didn't need them, if that makes sense.
So, how would you describe, you kind of do like a hybrid now, or what did you
Um,
describe your diet now?
so so the way I eat now, in my book, I'm not sure if you've seen it, Unlock Your Macro Type. I described 5 different macro types. Some people do best being carb fueled, some people do best being fat fueled, other folks do best being protein fueled. My approach is more protein fueled. I'm actually a macro type 2. So I'm more higher protein, more moderate to moderately low in carb, and more moderate in fats. But I do find from time to time when I experience seasons of higher levels of stress, I will increase my fats and dial my carbs down. And every time I do that, it just helps me manage my stress so much better. So that is definitely a knob I adjust as needed.
That's great. I mean, you kind of get to know yourself on a deep level.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I found that sometimes would overeat carbs or even vegetables when I was doing keto because um, I was just also I wasn't eating enough protein, so I was like always eating, okay, 4 ounces of meat, and then I would eat like 3 heads of broccoli, and it's like, well, but then I had horrible digestion. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay. So when do you see your clients like staying on keto a long time? Do you see any detrimental effects of that?
I've seen kind of a drop off with keto in the last, I'd say 5 years. I don't see it as sustainable in the long term for most of my clients. I do have some clients who have maintained that lifestyle for like medical purposes, and there's very legitimate hormonal reasons and health reasons they've needed to. But what I've ended up seeing working well for people long term is it's in my book, it's more of like macro type 4, but it's higher fat, moderate protein. It's low carb, but it's not keto low carb. So there's more vegetables, more fruit, more leafy greens, more fiber. And I'd say a carb range maybe between I'd say between 50 and 80 grams of carbs per day or less. That's obviously not like 20 grams or less for keto, but I'd say just a little bit higher and tends to be a little bit more sustainable for some of my ladies in the long run who need to be on a more fat-fueled nutrition approach.
But that's so much lower than the standard American diet.
Standard American diet, according to the USDA, if you ever look at a nutrition facts panel, they recommend 300 grams of carbs per day. Like that's absolutely insane. And the World Health Organization actually recommends 400 grams of carbs per day. And the thing is, I'd say about maybe 5 to 10% of Americans could probably eat that way and be fine. But for most of us, like, unless you're like really active, you're one of those folks with a really high metabolism, that just doesn't work for most people. It just doesn't work.
And you're going to be 400 pounds, 300 pounds.
But then again, look at the average American, you know? So,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
just went to Disney World, so I saw them.
I bet you had a lot of people watching for that for sure.
They were in the, I've never seen so many mobility. It's scary. Like they're in the mobility chairs now. People our age or younger, like it's crazy. I was like, what? I mean, I'm scared that people will start to not be able to walk soon. I mean, it's that scary.
But the thing is, though, we all have to take personal responsibility at some point or another. And I think that we could all point fingers and be like, well, it's the government's fault, it's this fault, it's this fault, it's like at the end of the day, no one's force feeding you what to eat.
That's true.
And I think that we're all at that age of accountability where you need to make good choices for yourself. And we do need to self-educate. We do need to figure out what's going to be best. And it's sad that that's the way it is for the masses, but I think that more and more people, I call it kind of like, are breaking out of the matrix and learning more about and getting woke about their health, about big pharma, about what works, what doesn't, and where they need to be accountable to for their own actions.
Well, the information is out there and it's free if they want
Absolutely.
to learn. But I mean, kids and people in institutions and stuff, they are at their mercy of the, you know, government guidelines, which is scary. But
Very scary, actually.
so I mean, hopefully, the more and more people like you helping to get the word out about, we don't need 300 grams of carbs a day. And um, so what are some tips? I'm sure most of your audience like mine is like 35 to 50. And what are some tips for people that have like the weight gain after children or the weight gain after their periods start slowing down and everything and perimenopause, menopause?
The biggest advice I could give to women in that place is you need to reestablish your new normal. You can't go back to all the things that you used to do in your teens and 20s and early 30s. You can't go back to that. You need to understand that your body has changed and the things you're going to need to do in the future to be healthy and to reverse out of whatever hormonal health concern you have or however you want to lose body fat, you're going to have to do it differently than what you did before. And what did the majority of us do? We just worked out more and we ate less. Eating less is going to drop your metabolism. It is going to reduce your muscle mass. There's a lot of detrimental effects. It's going to inhibit your body's natural ability to produce those hormones that it needs to heal. And we need to reframe the way we look at food from a place of not something to be afraid of, but something that energizes us, something that fuels us, and something that's ultimately going to heal us. And I think that there's a lot of women that have some fear related to food, and they are a little bit scared to eat more. I can't tell you how many ladies I talk to on a daily basis. They're afraid of food. They're afraid to increase their calories. They're afraid. But, with some TLC and some hand holding and really walking them through that process, my advice is you're going to need to eat more. You are going to need to get comfortable with weight training. Now, this doesn't mean you need to be slamming the weights in a bro gym. I mean, you can definitely do that. And I do encourage weight training, but I know that there's a lot of women who can do great programs from home. It doesn't have to be there. Some ladies do great with Orange Theory. Find something that you like, but do incorporate resistance training. Do learn how much you should be eating and be patient with yourself. And I think that being patient with yourself means, you need to measure these outcomes. You need to start somewhere and take some baseline progress photos, take some measurements, get your body fat assessed, and don't put all of your eggs in the basket of how much you weigh. Because if you're only looking at your weight as a means of progress, you're going to miss out on how much stronger you're getting, on your waist leaning out, on your muscles getting tighter, on your energy being better, your sleep being better, your mental focus being better. There's so many other metrics of success outside of just the scale alone, because you could be dropping weight, but if you're losing muscle mass, you're not ultimately going to have an overall improved aesthetic, and you're not going to have more vitality in your life. So, really helping women to reshift their perspective, change their expectations, and really understand that they're going to need a whole new strategy for themselves is so essential.
Absolutely. Um, and why do you hear, some people are just so terrified of they want to do only cardio, and, you know, why is that just a waste of time, and like, or is it?
I mean, cardio it alone isn't bad. I mean, the heart is a muscle, so you certainly need to exercise the heart. But cardio alone, just because you're burning calories, does not mean you are burning stored body fat. And unfortunately, cardio can waste away a lot of muscle, and it can just make you hungrier. And that was one of my biggest like duh moments for myself, because I was a marathon runner. And I was like, if I run this many miles, I will have like a rocking body. And I didn't have the aesthetic I wanted. And having a fit aesthetic is different for everybody, but I wanted that low body fat, lean, tight, defined look. And I'm telling you, like, it wasn't cardio, it was the weight, it was the protein, it was managing my deficit that really took me over the top. And once I was like, oh my goodness, are you freaking kidding me? I was wasting all these years thinking that if I became this like hardcore runner, I would look a certain way, but that wasn't it. And the leanest I ever was, Caitlin, I believe I was like maybe between 8 and 9% body fat. I didn't run. My only cardio was walking. Like it was just walking. And people like are still shocked when I tell them that to this day, that like I wasn't doing hit. I have bad knees. I can't do all that stuff. And it was managing the deficit, eating more protein, hitting the weights, and doing cardio, but it's not the end all be all.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same experience. Like, I did 2 half marathons, maybe three, and definitely 2. And right after that was the biggest health crash I ever had
Hmm.
with my Hashimoto's. So, definitely. And I was also experimenting with um, plant-based diet.
Oh goodness.
So it was like the worst. Like tofu, I mean, is not a complete protein. Okay, let me tell you. All right, so um, there's a lot of talk in keto and carnivore about fiber. What do you think about, I mean, as somebody, I'm sure you have a lot of clients who not only have weight goals and health goals, but they have a lot of IBS and stuff. It's rampant. I mean, uh, and that's another hormone sign your hormones are messed up and everything. But what do you think about fiber? Because when I didn't eat fiber, that was when I felt the best. Um, and I had just such terrible digestion when I was eating more plants and more plant-based. And so what do you think about that?
I have inconclusive thoughts on that, and I'll tell you why. I'd say, because I do offer dietary fiber supplements, and I have seen a lot of people have tremendous success with it. However, I would say 80% of my clients do well when they increase their dietary fiber and we see improvements. But I would say there are 20% of my clients that don't. They don't necessarily need that higher fiber. In fact, dialing down the fiber has actually helped them even more with, I'm talking folks who have very delicate gut health issues and concerns. So the thing is, I wouldn't say that fiber is a one size fits most, one size fits all solution. I do see it help a lot of people, but the body is smart, the body adapts. Just as when you go low in carb, your body still can break down the glucose it needs from the fats in your body from gluconeogenesis. So I do have mixed thoughts on that. And I think that, we need to do more research, see more studies, and just observe more data points to give you something more conclusive. But I do think that there are folks who can do fine without it, but I have seen people benefit with it as well.
Well, I mean, I think the benefit a lot of times is probably people just switching maybe from ultra processed foods to eating some broccoli, cauliflower, whatever, and lettuce, salads and things. And so of course they're going to feel better
Mhm.
than if they were eating just Oreos or whatever.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
So, and a lot of people just don't eat healthy foods at all. They just eat pizza and chips and, I mean, vegetable oils, I feel like is one of our biggest, and I know you agree with one of the biggest things we can cut out. I think it's up, it's neck and neck with sugar, vegetable oil, sometimes it's like, which one's
Hmm.
worse? I don't know.
I still think that sugar is probably one of the most toxic things because we weren't designed to eat sugar at like the rates that we're eating it at. Like, no, and I tell this to my clients all the time. When you look at like processed food in the standard American diet, it's, high sugar and high fat at the same time. And I said, nowhere in nature do you see any food that is high sugar and high fat together. You'll find like I don't know, like a
Honey,
pineapple or a strawberry. Like, yes, that's high sugar, but you'll see a coconut or like an olive, but you'll never see something that has both of those just jacked up. And it's not natural. It's not natural to eat that way. Our
those
body wasn't
two,
intended
yeah.
to.
Yeah, I feel like that's like heart attack fuel. Having the two high fat
Together,
and
yep.
high sugar
Hmm. Hmm.
together. Um, so I know like one of the things people always complain about is belly fat. What are your tips for belly fat?
The thing is, it depends because belly fat, I kind of break it down into three, maybe four belly types. So you could just be bloated, right? And I have had clients drop 5 inches off of their waist in a week just by dealing with bloating, right? And bloating, and that's not true fat, right? So if you have a bloated belly, there are a lot of things that you can do by like eliminating sugar alcohols. You may want to identify what type of triggers you might have. Some people don't do well with gluten, dairy, soy, all of that good stuff, some FODMAPs and whatnot. So it could be bloating, it could be weight gain, it could just be the fact that you have been eating more calories than you need for quite some time, and it's just your body storing fat. Or it could be hormonal. And when it's hormonal, that's quite different than just a weight gain belly, because a weight gain belly you will lose if you just start dialing in your nutrition. A hormonal belly is when your body's hormones are in fat storing mode. So, meaning there is a redistribution of your fat to be particularly in the lower abdomen. And I find this particularly when women experience estrogen dominance, when their estrogen's high relative to progesterone. And if that's the case, you could do all the things, but it's not until you get those hormones balanced or make a shift in the way that your body is handling fat storage that that's going to move at all. And oftentimes it requires eating more. Oftentimes it requires eating quite differently than you were before.
I think, I mean, also estrogen dominance, I mean, is a sugar thing, of course. I mean, I'm telling you, just saying a
No.
little bit. Also, I feel like women put all this crap on their bodies and it
Hmm.
makes them more estrogen dominant, like all these.
Absolutely. The beauty industry, I mean, the creams, the products, it absolutely can have an impact for sure. There's a lot of endocrine disruptors out there for sure.
Uh, so how do you get women off that yo-yo dieting like mentality?
I think that there needs to be a mindset that the fastest way to lose weight is to do it slowly. And I have to get people out of that quick fix mentality. I have to get them out of that headspace. And it's a conversation. It's a very deep conversation. And I need to explain to people that if what you were doing works, you would have been there by now. And you need to stop discounting these short-term objectives for your long-term health. Like, someone who wants to look good on a cruise next month versus I'm like, okay, well, we can do that. But, you understand this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And I think that women get to a certain point where we're like, you know what, I'm sick and tired. I want to do this the right way. And they're tired of fighting themselves. And I think that you almost have to come to the end of yourself in a way, if that makes sense, where you're like, you know what, let's just do this the right way. I'm tired of cutting corners. And that's when the healing can really begin. But a lot of that has to happen on the inside first, where you're really mentally ready.
Kind of like surrendering that what I'm
Yes.
doing is not working.
I love that word surrender. I'm glad you used that because I tell them, like, you have to surrender to the process. You truly have to be like, okay, what do we do? Like, how do we do this? And once you're in that state of surrender, it's a real beautiful thing because you let go of all your preconceived notions of how you thought it should be. And that's where all the real healing can begin. And I think that's why a lot of my coaching clients have such wonderful experiences because, they're truly ready to do the work. They will listen, they're open-minded. And it's being open-minded that is a very powerful attribute that's going to impact your long-term success, not just with your health, but I'd say in life in general. Like we need to be more open-minded.
Yeah, don't think you know everything.
Because we don't. Like, and if you think you know everything, like you can always learn, you can always grow, you can always learn something at all points in life.
And I think, like you said, you're strong, like having a strong why. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
I think chronic illness was one of the best things that happened to me because it's like it's shifted away from just like losing weight or getting to the little bit of body fat or something. It was just more like, well, I just don't want to be in the bed and I don't want to be stuck exhausted and all that. And I want to, live a long time and things like that, and not get multiple autoimmune diseases and things like that. So, I mean, they go hand in hand, like, and they
Absolutely.
can, you know, I
Mhm.
think though, when we're younger, we just only think about being cute or whatever. But later you're like,
I'm telling you, like I look at fitness so different now than I did like when I competed. Now I look at it as mental health. I look at it as therapy. I don't even think of it from like a vanity perspective. It's like I need this to keep my mind calm. I need this to keep my stress down because
yeah,
it really heals the body in so many different ways.
yeah. I mean, a 20-30 minute workout with weights is like, I mean, I have to do it almost every day, or else I'm like trying to, kill my husband or something, or screaming at my kid. And then it's also like your alone time and all
Oh,
that.
for sure. You can hear yourself think.
It's so great. So tell us some about your programs and your channels and everything.
Absolutely. So, my top selling program right now is my hormone reset protocol, and it's great for women who are feeling fatigued, who are feeling bloated, who are feeling that no matter what they do, they cannot lose body fat. So that's the hormone reset. I can be found on YouTube, Gauge Girl Training. I could be found on Instagram, Gauge Girl Training, and I'm learning the whole TikTok world, Gauge Girl Training there as well. And I also have a new podcast that'll be coming out later this year, and you guys will be able to learn more about what that's all about because I have a new program that I'll be rolling out.
And your book, show us your book again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm also writing a new book, but yes, this is my book, Unlock Your Macro Type. You can find everywhere books are sold, as well as Amazon, but you can walk into your local Barnes and Noble as well and find this. There's quizzes in here. It's called Unlock Your Macro Type. It's going to teach you the best way to fuel your unique body type. So there's quizzes, meal plans, recipes, workouts, everything is in here.
That's
And this book took me
amazing.
7 years to write. It took me 7 years to write. So lots of gems in there.
That's amazing.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much for joining us. It's been really fun talking to you and getting to know you. Please let us know what you like down in the comments. Leave a comment and share with a friend who might help, and leave a thumbs up and follow Christine. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.